Om Shanti, how are you? So, globally, people are trying both spiritually and non spiritually to convert the sexual energy into something higher. So, in spirituality, they say it as the rise of Kundalini energy. So, which is transmutation of sexual energy into divine energy. Likewise, in non spiritual sense, people want to transmute sexual energy into a more productive energy. So they think uh, that sexual energy, if not harnessed, will give you the instant pleasure but makes you depleted in the long run. So you can go nowhere when you are addicted to this sexual energy. So instead of releasing the sexual energy, you should be able to elevate it to a higher level so that you can reap the benefit out of it. So I believe it is Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, who has noticed this. Uh, I think he must be the first one to notice this and mention this in his book. So he points out, actually that book is more about the law of attraction to attract wealth by creating positive thoughts. In addition, in one place he has mentioned about this transmutation of sexual energy, and he believes many billionaires and those who have achieved success in their field must have transmuted their sexual energy. That's the reason they are able to attain that success. And even the father of psychoanalysis, Freud, he renames the term transmutation into sublimation. So, sublimation is not the suppression of sexual thoughts or sexual energy, but channelizing the sexual energy into something higher. So, he says, whenever you have sexual urges, don't act on it immediately. Instead, delay it, try to sit with that urge and try to give some higher destination to act on it. The moment you have some desire, like sexual desire, instead of acting on it, just create a mental link that whenever you have that desire, instead of acting on that desire, do something that's going to bring you more benefit, like learning music, playing music, doing workout in the gym, or writing a book, like that. So gradually it will become a habit. Although it sounds nice, it won't be practical. The reason Freud and Napoleon Hill has brought this aspect into their books that deals with the mind is mainly because they are aware of how destructive lust is. So that's the main hindrance for any of us to achieve our goal. So it may occur to them that if there's a way to harness that sexual energy, so they could reach the goal pretty fast. This is just a theory, it will never be practical. You know why? Because usually you get these thoughts when you are in the middle of doing something productive like reading. So you did not sit there to engage in sexual acts, you are doing something else, but all of a sudden that you are getting this, you are overwhelmed by sexual thoughts, so you couldn't even concentrate. Then how can you channelize into something else? So that's the problem. So they have diagnosed the problem correctly, but solution what they offer is definitely not the solution. So the actual solution can be given not by any human, because everybody is facing similar problem. So the solution to that can only be given by God, because only He knows it. Only He stays away from this problem, and He knows exactly what we should do to come out of this problem. So these sexual thoughts or urges or emotion or desire, whatever you say it, it starts very young in our childhood. So we tend to think it is natural, but we least know about the time when nobody in this world was disturbed even a bit by sexual thoughts. Whether the person is 5 years old or 50 years old or 80, 90 years old, nobody was aware of the sexual thoughts. That was 5000 years back when India was heaven. So people, all religions, their main goal is to reach heaven, but they have no idea that India was heaven in the beginning, and the residents of heaven are being worshipped by Hindus till date. So they were the residents of heaven. They are not God, but they were as pure as God Himself. That's the reason they worship. So the men and women of heaven were so beautiful, they were so rich, and they did not lust each other. Actually, they don't know what lust is, what sex is. The childbirth happens when husband and wife have the thought of having a baby together, not through sex. That's the power of the thoughts of a pure soul. They were so pure that they did not know what lust, anger, greed, attachment, or ego are. The reason for that is they were not body conscious like we are now. They were fully soul conscious, which means they consider themselves to be the soul that shines like a tiny star in between the eyebrows, which is why Hindus apply tilak here. It is the soul that sees through the eyes, speaks through the mouth, performs every single act through this body. They were aware of it constantly, naturally. Nobody taught them in heaven. But what happens after 2500 years is they slowly become body conscious. They no longer consider themselves to be souls. That's when these five vices, lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego, emerge from within them. And that's when they start committing sins in the form of lust. So, but they did not get punishment in the beginning, but after some time, maybe after 1000 years, they start getting punished for their sins in the form of diseases, poverty, natural calamities, conflict between family members. So everything is now right. But we didn't know that sex is a sin. But at least they know that it's a great distraction that spoils one life. That's good. And God says, it is when you were pure, you are living in heaven. When you become impure, corrupted in your mind with sexual thoughts, that you have started losing everything. And look at you. You have lost everything I have given you: beauty, health, wealth, everything. So now to get back everything you have lost over the course of 5000 years, all you need to do is to become pure again. How do you become that? By becoming soul conscious again, but still we don't have the power. That's the reason why people, while they start studying, all of a sudden they are overwhelmed with sexual thoughts or desire. That's because the soul is uh, powerless. In heaven, soul was filled with power. That's the reason they don't know what sex is. But when they become body conscious, the power of the soul decreases gradually, and it has decreased to a larger extent because we are at the end of this time cycle. Just 100 years before the Kali Yuga, God comes. 100 years before the destruction of Kali Yuga, God Himself comes from the supreme abode, enters an old man's body, and gives this teaching through that old man, and he names that old man as Brahma. Whoever listens to God's direct knowledge through Brahma's mouth, they are called Brahma Kumars and Kumaris. That's why we are Brahma Kumars. So the essence of God's teaching is to consider yourself to be soul again and to remember God, who is also a soul, which is why we call him the supreme soul. So he is also a tiny point of light who resides in the golden red colored light world. So we have to remember God like a star in the golden red colored sky all the time. The more you remember God, the more our soul will be filled with power. So you will be detached from everything and everybody you see. Uh, it is because our soul has no power that we get attached to everything and everybody we see. As a result, we like somebody or we hate somebody. But now God makes you detach from everything by filling yourself with power. The more you connect your mind with God and nobody else, you will be able to quickly fill your souls with power, so it becomes pure. Once it becomes pure, you will find that those sexual thoughts and urges decreases rapidly, and at one point you will have no more urges. So this is possible only by remembering God and by listening to the direct knowledge of God, which is called Murli, which is available absolutely free of cost in all Brahma Kumaris Rajog meditation centers. And you need to stay away from the things or people that triggers you sexually. So you need to stay away from watching not only pornographic material but also, now everything is sexualized, right? If you go to social media, it is dominated by glamour dances. So you need to protect yourself, and you have to look at each other as souls, not on as bodies. And if you are interacting with a member of opposite sex, No need to have sexual thoughts, but just the thought of, wow, how beautiful she is, how beautiful her voice is. When you have such thoughts, you should be able to convert it in that very instant. That I'm not speaking with a girl, I'm speaking with a soul. And this soul is my sister because she is the daughter of the Supreme Soul, God Shiva. And God Shiva is called Allah by Muslims, Heavenly Godfather by Christians. God is just one. So you should be quick to change your thoughts. You shouldn't let it develop into sexual desire. As soon as the thought arises, you should be able to cut it right away. Not only to cut it, but to divert it into something else positive that actually counters those sexual thoughts. Not only to lust, but also to anger, greed, attachment, and ego. You need to practice similar tactics by developing thoughts that will negate those vicious thoughts in the very beginning, or else you couldn't conquer it. For example, if you are getting angry with something your spouse do, so do you think by being conscious of that you will be able to conquer that? Because you will become extra conscious when you get angry. It is why you act on it. But people say be conscious when you get lustful thoughts. How's that? Anyway, before acting on it, you will become more conscious of sexual thoughts. That's how you act on it. But the actual thing is, you should be aware that you are getting that sexual thought, not even sexual thought, some thought that's not normal. That will eventually take to sexual thoughts. So you need to wipe that out by converting it into something that totally negates the sexual thoughts, negates the vicious thoughts. For example, God says, so even here Freud says you need to establish a mental link that whenever you get that sexual desire, go to gym. Whenever you get that sexual desire, start writing a book, like that. But that won't work. I said it why, right? So because it is only when you start writing the book, you are getting overwhelmed by sexual thoughts. Then what would you do? So the reason is our soul is powerless because of our indulgence in sexual acts in your past births. So that can be overcome only by filling your souls with the power, by connecting your mind with the Supreme Soul, God. And you have to convert those vicious thoughts. For example, if you are getting a lustful thought over somebody, God says, create good wishes for them. Whenever you have sexual thought, usually we would act on it, right? Instead, whenever you get sexual thought, just consider it as a signal to give them blessing, right? So actually having sexual thought on somebody is like to curse them. But when you want to bless them, you should stay pure at heart. You can't bless somebody when your mind is corrupted with sexual thoughts. So that will automatically purifies you and also bless them with good wishes. Likewise, when you have angry thoughts, God says, create the thought that I am the most peaceful soul on this planet. So the angry disappears. It won't disappear by watching that I am angry, because that's what G.D. Krishnamurti said. Many used to say that. But that sounds great. It's not how it works. And when you have attachment towards somebody, create the thought, I am detached to everything and everybody in this world. So that's the power of me. When you have this thought, you will find yourself detaching from whatever you are attached to. Likewise, if you have arrogance, thoughts of arrogance, then you have to quickly create the thought that I am the most humble being. The moment you think that I am the most humble being, the arrogance will disappear. So, this is the actual transmutation, not by letting the sperm produced by letting those sexual thoughts linger on. So, you need to cut at the beginning, or else you can't conquer that. So, this way, see, whenever something, a trace of sexual thought, it's not even sexual, but just they're beautiful, their voice is very nice. When you have such thoughts, when you are able to convert that into something else, that is, if you think that somebody is beautiful, you are body conscious. But when your focus is on the soul, that soul should claim the higher status in heaven. Now you are soul conscious. So, by repeatedly bringing yourself back to soul consciousness, at one point you will not have sexual thoughts at all, no matter how long you interact with the person of opposite sex, no matter how beautiful their external appearance is. Because that's how deities of heaven were, and we were deities originally. So, it is definitely going to be possible now too, because it is every 5000 years once, when God comes and makes us soul conscious, we become deities again. So this is how we become deities. So it is possible, and it is God himself who says this is the actual solution. So now you don't have sexual thoughts at all to be distracted. So guess what, your mind is so clean that you will be able to focus on anything you want to, and you will be able to finish a task that would take normally 1 hour. Now, after making yourself completely free from sexual thoughts, you will be able to accomplish it just within 10 or 15 minutes, because of your enormous power of concentration. So it is the concentration power that gets decreased when you get addicted to sexual thoughts. So by conquering sexual thoughts, your uh, power of concentration will increase tremendously. So it's going to be very easy to achieve success in any walk of your life. So all you need to do is to remember, is to consider yourself to be the soul first. Then remember God as a point of light in the golden red colored light world as much as possible. No matter what you do, make sure your mind is connected to God. That's it. You are not going to do it only when you are sitting in meditation, because we've been body conscious for the past 2500 years, and it's not going to go away just by doing 10 minutes meditation daily. You need to be constantly practice this in your mind, that you are not this body but this soul, and my father is the supreme soul, he is ever pure. Then how come I, the son of God, can stay impure? It's shameful, right? I can't let it happen anymore. If my father is pure, I will also be pure. That's possible, because I was pure in the beginning. I will definitely become pure and stay pure no matter what happens. So you have to be determined in following this religiously, and also you need to listen to Murli daily without fail, because that's where God cautions you constantly so that your addiction towards sex or any worldly pleasures will end pretty soon. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching. So before closing this video, I'd like to add this particular sentence which will help you. Addiction to sex is will bring you temporary pleasure and permanent regret. Please bear it in your mind. And another thing said by Freud is the disciplined man will always outperform the distracted one. So, how can you discipline your mind? Only by connecting it to God all the time. Om Shanti. Also, make sure you go to the nearest Brahmakumari center. You can Google it to find the address of the nearest Brahmakumari center. If you can't find one, then you can always access online in several websites and YouTube channels. We'll be giving the links of some of them in the description below. So please make use of it. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching.